All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. I'm sitting down, a little bit of pain this morning. I woke up and I was supposed to go on live with Jason Blood Church. He's a YouTube channel, does a lot of good work. And I got to studying what I'm presenting now and lost track of time. So uh, I sent him an email, but he hasn't responded yet. I don't know if he got busy himself. So look forward to a live with Jason. I think his name's Jason Blood. I think that's his name. I heard that once on one of his videos, so I'm not 100% sure, but his YouTube channel is called Jason Blood Church. So um, I was studying what I'm about to present as far as where we're at on the timeline. So, as we know, Joshua crosses over into the promised land on what I call March 26th, based on the equinox. I think it's accurate to say that the equinox starts the year because it's the truly only solid day we have, just like your birthday doesn't change every year based on the moon. This concept of the moon, like I've said many times before, came into existence by a guy named King Antiochus who worshiped the moon. And he brought this out, and Enoch has a specific warning about this that if you do follow the moon, that you'll come in your years 10 days too soon because the moon only has a 354-day cycle. So as we go through this, keep in mind that if it's the equinox or if it is the sliver moon, maybe God is using their calendar just to keep them um, so they know that the event that took place, the rapture, affected them on the day that they thought. And there is a verse in the Bible that says that it'll be on their feast days, not his. So it's possible that the sliver moon might come into play. Of course, as I go forward, I can't help but notice that the day they're calling the head of the year, Nissan 1, on my timeline is the day Jesus went to the cross. So it overlaps. So could it be that day? Um, we're coming up on what I would call Nissan 10. Others will call Nissan 10 the 8th of April. And I guess as we go forward, we'll see. However, all that being said, up until now, me personally, apparently there's been others that recognize this in the past that the Jubilee would be in 2025. I've never given finalities as far as this must happen, blah, 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 because we're dealing with an all powerful God who has the exact timeline that is accurate. And while we attempt to figure it out, it's like saying we're going to Times Square. You don't snap your fingers and appear in Times Square. You get in your vehicle or your airplane, wherever you're at on planet Earth, and you go to New York. And on the way, here in the United States, for example, pick a location from where you're at, and you can use the same analogy. On the way, you will stop for fuel, you'll stop to eat, you'll stop to see the world's biggest ball of yarn. You'll stop and see all these events on the way. And that's what all these dates have been. But as we draw closer and finally get to Times Square in New York, there'll be billboards saying, it's here, it's coming up, it's soon. And I think that's why a lot of us in 2017, when the Revelation 12 sign happened, I think that most people can accredit that date or around that date in the past 7 years as being the year where God woke them up. God woke them up to view these things. God woke them up to have a heightened interest in the date that Jesus would return. And I'm going to show you a YouTube channel at the very end of my pictures. She made one of the best videos I think I've seen in a while, and her statement was, "View the New Testament as though you were already raptured." We see these we see these indicators in the New Testament that make statements like, "Don't you know that you are? It's already happened. You're already there." We see people making these statements that the rapture has already occurred. We're just finishing out this time because we have a task to do. We have a job to do. I've said many times that a tribulation saint has not failed at anything aside from accepting the Lord at its base, at its most basic premise, and that is it's all of the Lord. He's done everything. But there are 8 billion people on this planet working very hard to please their God or their understanding of who God is, missing the point that Jesus is the only way. There isn't a religion out there that ignores Jesus aside from atheism and how you call those follow Satan worshipers. Those people, even Satan worship, don't deny Jesus. Atheists actually do deny Jesus. So not very many. It's not a large group of people that will do that. So they will. The rapture will occur. We see it getting set up everywhere. I see all these people, these wonderful people, with their piece of the puzzle. Chris over Global Rapture Watchers, uh, Watchwoman 65, Lisa Boyce, Bubba at Bubba News. There's just wonderful people applying their piece of the puzzle to what they see. And the thing that does a little, the thing that bothers me a little bit when I see certain YouTube channels and they will make the statement that, don't look at that. Don't look at the stars. They're wrong. Just get into this and look at like, and I will never do that. You've never seen me do that. I won't do that because while I believe the timeline is accurate, it is not a salvational issue to know or believe that I, out of 8 billion people, have figured anything out. That is ludicrous. No, we look and we gravitate towards those people that we understand the best, the gift that God has given you. If the gift God has given you is to look at the stars, look at them. That's the gift he gave you. That's the understanding he gave you. Me, it's numbers and times and when things happen. And there's a lot of people who look at that, i.e., the amount of subscribers, perhaps, that I have. Dr. Barry has a lot of subscribers. He did a fantastic job. A lot of my timeline came from Dr. Barry and the understanding of when things happen. I simply counted day one, and I used the Gregorian date, and I simply went down 364 days for the Hebrew dates and 365 for the Gregorian. It doesn't make me, if you say, well, no, I think it's going to happen on um, the triumphant entry, and I think that's April 8th. Okay, you already know the date. It's Nissan 10. It's not about knowing whether it's March 26th or April 8th. It is about you understanding that it is Nissan 10. And while we can't prove, because there's never been a rapture event in our lifetimes or even in the last 2,000 years that we can account to and say, hey, this is when it happened, we can surmise that that could very well be the date that we go home. Could it be? Could it be the triumphant entry? Could it be when Jesus goes to the cross? So we go back through this, and I've seen a lot of great YouTube channels lately say we have to go before Passover because then we begin the seven feasts again. And so, with that in mind, could it be March 26th? Could it be April the 8th? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and be dogmatic about it, but I am going to say that it seems to me that most people are coming to the realization, and we've heard this many years before. Oh, this is the Jubilee. This is a Jubilee. I never worked on it because I simply just kind of trusted that they knew what they were talking about. And then every year, a new piece of information came out. No, this is a Jubilee. Until we hear that, in fact, Joshua did cross over in 1406. There is a few comments that I saw this as well. Okay, he crossed over in 1406, and you count the Jubilees, and you do land at 2025, but you can't count the Jubilees prior to that. Unfortunately, that's not accurate. The Bible, and I'll show you the verse, says that the Jubilee, uh, it was the Jubilee when he crossed over. Well, if the Jubilee began there, a Jubilee is 50 years away. 50 years prior, it was 10 years before Egypt was brought out of, the Jews were brought out of Egypt. Remember, in 1446 is when um, uh, Moses brought them out of Egypt 40 years earlier. They walked the desert for 40 years. And then in 1406, Joshua was the one that actually crossed over into the promised land. So it wasn't when they left, that wasn't a Jubilee year when they left Egypt. 10 years prior to that was. So this gives us an indicator that we can count back as well. And when we do count back 53 Jubilees, we land at creation in 4003. I see a lot of this, and this I'll be dogmatic about. You can't change how long Jesus was here. There's a lot of studies. Oh, Jesus only ministered for a year and a half. Oh, I'm sorry, he ministered for 3.5. There's others that say Jesus was 36, 38, and when he went to the cross. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 33 and a half. It's symmetric with the time when Adam was created to the time 7 years later when Adam was removed from the garden. He was created with age. He was 26 and a half. Jesus was baptized in the year, or began his ministry actually 40 days later, at 26, the year 26 and a half. So it's symmetric. It holds symmetrics. That type of stuff we should see while building a timeline. There are, you can build your timeline, and then I'll be in there going, well, what about this and what about that? I've done that to myself for 6 years as I built these timelines. So, while I do recognize God might be using the Hebrew calendar, I also recognize that it might be the equinox. There's only 3 dates that could be possible. After that, the full moon doesn't fit. I've shown time and time again that Chodesh does not mean moon, it means month. And so the man with the bag of money, the bag of money, by the way, is the raptured bride. When he returns, he's returning to a whore. Who's the whore? It's the Jew that will not believe in Jesus, and they've traded Jesus for the Antichrist. And so that's what that passage is speaking to. This person I'm about to show you, I don't recall her name, but I will show you her YouTube at the end. Actually, I could look it up real quick just so you have it. Her name is Sue Keith. Sue Keith. She has quite a large channel. Sue Keith, and she made a video called Raptured Bride Ministry During Tribulation. So she made a whole video about this. And she says what I disagree with her only on the point that the tribulation saints will be here for 3.5 years. The 7 years are for the Jews. It is not for the tribulation saint. I believe the tribulation saints will be gone in 6 months, and I'll show you that as well um, in this video. But Sue Keith did an amazing video. She said what I have been saying for so long, and that is when we view the 10 virgins, five with oil, five without, we are not viewing the bride. They all fell asleep. When the bridegroom came to pick up the five with oil, they he was called the bridegroom because he already had his bride. You don't get called a bridegroom until you're already with your bride. So the 10 virgins are not speaking to the five with oil or the rapture bride. They're not. That is not true. She made a statement, and that again was that when you read the New Testament, read it as though you're not here. Read it as though you've already been raptured, and it'll open your eyes to a lot of things. And I was like, okay, I mean, I already knew about the 10 virgins, but I haven't gone in with that mindset to the rest of the New Testament, which would be very interesting to see because we simply are not a part of any of this stuff. We're in the world, bad things are happening, they've been happening. There are those who say, well, we're coming up on this seal and that seal. No, we're not. There are no seals open yet. Not a single seal has been opened yet. While some of the seals or all of the seals might mimic what we see on earth, this is Satan trying to convince you that the rapture is not a real thing and that you're all going to go through tribulation. And the preterist does the same thing. You cannot prove that we're at the end of 7,000 years mathematically. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. So there's a lot of varying ideas that simply are completely inaccurate. We go before any seals open. The 10 virgins are not speaking to the bride. The five with oil are the tribulation saints. The five without are the Jew. God will focus his attention. Daniel's 70th week. There is no point in there where there is no position there where it talks about the bride whatsoever. It is talking about the tribulation saint and the Jew. And again, that 7 years is directed to the Jew only, not 3.5 years, and then the tribulation saint goes. I think it's 6 months. I keep seeing the 7 years, 6 months. If we are raptured on the the triumphant entry on March 26th, for example, if that does occur, that makes it exactly to the day 7 years and 6 months after the Revelation 12 sign. And if we are raptured on March 26th, that makes it exactly to the day 7 years and 6 months to the day to the end of the tribulation. It matches perfectly. And we know those channel that says 14ers, I think 7 years have already passed. I think that I'm not disagreeing with them and what they see, but I think that we're not looking ahead for 14 years. I think 7 years have passed and we're looking ahead for seven. And right in the center of that is when we go. Now, let me get into the pictures. I have quite a few. I'll try not to make this go on too long. Some of you love long videos and some of you hate them. This one might be a little bit long because I need to present the pictures to you. This is where we are right now. We are right here on March 26th for me, which is Nissan 10. I believe the year started on the day of equal parts. It's the most solid date that we have. If we use the equinox, it bounces around each year by 6 hours, making sometimes it one day and sometimes the next day. And it's not solid enough. If you look in time and date and go to March 16th and look back 600 years, taking into account those 10 days that they moved, March 6th, and then if you look forward 600 years, it's still March 26th. Or did I say 6th? March 16th. No, I'm sorry, March 6th, because March 16th is the day of equal parts now because they changed it by 10 days. And if you go forward 600 years, you're still going to see the day of equal parts. It moves around by seconds each year, and that's it. And people that say the Earth is wobbling as it spins, it is not. It is simply the position of it around the sun in relationship to the equator. So Mars, and I don't want to get into that subject too much because that's a real sore point for certain people, which it shouldn't be. I don't get sore. You don't see me on Facebook when they're presenting flat Earth making any comment. It's round, and if you don't think it's round, you're not going to heaven. And I've seen that comment time and time again on the round Earth comments where a flat earther will go in there and say such a horrendous comment, and that's simply not true. What we do here, and if you're right and we get there, great. I could care less what the earth is shaped like when all I care about is pleasing my Lord, doing the work I feel like He sent me to do, and present it to you in a fashion to where we can all have something to look forward to, and that it might draw somebody, one person out there to their knees and say, if this rapture is really going to happen tomorrow, I'm out of time. Let me pray. And then the disappointment of it passing, what did they lose? That's my argument. People are like, you're giving false hope and you're disheartening people. I'm sorry, they went to their knees. They're saved. Once they're saved, they're always saved. You can't lose your salvation. It wasn't yours in the first place. It was a cup God offered you and you drank it. You can't, it's paint that you got on yourself. You can't get that off. The blood of Christ, once it's on you, it doesn't ever come off. Once the Holy Spirit is in you, it doesn't ever leave. I don't care how much you ask it to leave, it's not going anywhere. You signed a contract when you drank that drink, when you took that cup, you signed a contract. You don't get out of it. You don't buy a car, drive it around for a year and say, I decided I don't want this. They ruin your credit. It's the same thing with salvation. You signed a contract. You decided this is what I want. Now the Holy Spirit will work within you, whether you like it or not. That's what's going to happen. The Holy Spirit will begin working in you. You're stuck like Chuck. That's it. You are saved. So while you might be disappointed in a date passing, and quite frankly, I have been disappointed in passing dates for over 30 years, 35 years, I have been utterly disappointed in days passing. It didn't unsave me. So, no, I will always give you the next high probability of a watch date. I will never say it's 1,000,000% guaranteed because I don't know. I didn't make all these dates. God did. He put them in the Bible and I simply put them on a timeline. All the distances between each of these dates are biblical. They're all out of the Bible. This is my love. This is the love I have when I study the Bible. No, I don't go into the charts that are going on in the heavens. I don't have dreams and visions, although I have, but I don't base my channel on that. I don't have feelings and I don't see. While I do see numbers, I don't present my channel that way because that's not my strength. That's not what God gave me. But I will never ever discount anybody else's um, piece of the puzzle. Their route to that spectacular place, Times Square, Disney World, whatever that route is that you took, I will not say, well, you shouldn't have gone that way. You should have gone this way. I won't say that because that's inaccurate. We all have a different part of this. And so tomorrow, Tomorrow on this timeline is Nissan 10. Tomorrow is the triumphant entry. It is a perfect rapture scenario. It happens 4 days prior to the cross. The cross will happen on um, at sunset is when the Last Supper is, right here at nightfall at sunset. That is March 29th. At sunset, it becomes March 30th. During that 21-hour period of time from sunset to Jesus giving up the ghost on the cross, on the cross, a lot of things happened. He enjoyed a Last Supper with his apostles. He sent one of the apostles away to betray him. That apostle, Jesus goes out to the Garden of Gethsemane. He prays. He comes back 3 times. He chastises twice. He doesn't chastise in Luke, but in Mark and Matthew, he chastised them for not staying awake and watching. Why? Why is that? Because Matthew and Mark is speaking predominantly to the left behind church and the Jew. But in Mark and Matthew, I'm sorry, in Luke, he does not chastise. So he's out in the garden. Judas Iscariot shows up with his 30 pieces of silver because he's money hungry and he's ready to trade God Almighty to the wolves for 30 pieces of silver. And he does. And they take him and they spend the night. And in the morning, they whip him. I believe it was 39 lashes, one lash short of 40. And he goes to the cross and gives up the ghost. They give him vinegar, the whole thing that happens. And all of this transpires in 21 hours because at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he gives up the ghost. At 6 p.m., we're assuming around 6 p.m. is sunset in Israel on that date. Um, and of course, it won't vary at all on the equilux because the day of equal parts or the day there are 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night is on March 16th. So it will not vary. To say that the head of the year varies by using the equinox by 6 hours is to say that we're miscounting when Jesus went to the cross. To say it's the sliver moon means that it will be all over the place. And it will also state that you can't get 150 days after the flood to get to the cross. Now, this is in fact also a high watch day because we see here that the Last Supper, 3.5 days later from the triumphant entry, 84 hours, that keeps popping up. there will be this Last Supper on March 29th. It will happen at sunset. So what time, if we just calculate 84 hours prior to this, I haven't done that. I hadn't thought of that. 84 hours prior to this might be the time. Now, many of you will say, we will not know the time. God is not speaking to the bride when he says this. Jesus wasn't speaking to the bride when he says this. He says to Mark and Luke, you don't know. You won't know. And what's he talking about? He's talking about the rapture. I know a lot of people, and I kind of agree that the Bible's spoken of in levels, in that one event can tie to several events. And so while he is speaking about the end of the world, he's also speaking to Mark and Matthew that they will not know when the rapture occurs, because they won't. The church is not watching. I know many Catholics, friends of mine, and I say, the rapture's coming around the corner. We can't know that. Matthew 24:36 says that they're more than willing to make that statement. Their lives are fine. There's nothing going on in them that would warrant that. I would almost say that the bride is going through some serious tribulations right now. Not tribulation, but serious things. I'm passing a kidney stone for 8 months. I am in extreme pain right now. Um, on my left side. It will not pass. I go to the doctors and they tell me, uh, it's almost passed. It's three-quarters of the way down the tube, but it keeps getting infected, which is dangerous for me. And it is not good for my left kidney, but they will not pull it out. They'd rather have doctor visit after doctor visit to make their money that way than actually doing the procedure because of the environment that we have created by lawsuits, never ending lawsuits. So they'd rather say, I never get sued. Well, that's because you never do the surgery. So I sit here in pain day after day, just waiting for it to pass. And that's what we've reduced ourselves to here in the United States, as far as being able to actually get a procedure. You almost have to be dying in order to get something done. If you're just in pain, they're like, you'll be all right. Just it'll pass. It's been 8 months. It's not passing. Anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. So, a very high watch day on March 26th for me. For them, they're calling this Nissan 1. I found a verse. Somebody sent it to me, and I'll show you their post. I found a verse that March 26th is actually the Sabbath after. It is actually moved 10 days, and that's when they will blow trumpets. And I kind of see it. Doesn't say it exactly. I can kind of relate to it. um, that you know how they blow trumpets in the seventh month and 10th day, that it would translate into the triumphant entry being also exactly 6 months later as to when, not that they blow trumpets for the Jubilee to begin. Well, no, that they would blow trumpets for the Jubilee to begin. Then when they blow trumpets in September, it's not blowing a trumpet, and I can show you that with the numbers on that. But that is a trumpet blast showing that it is the year 49 and a half, and in 6 months, it is going to be the beginning of the Jubilee. And the Jubilees do count by 49. They do not count by 50 like the Catholic Church does. Ironically, with the Catholic Church's 50-day or 50-year count, they have also landed on 2025, which I find very telling. And possibly when the Catholics say, hey, this is the Jubilee year, let me go Google or YouTube 2025 Jubilee year, and they might find our channels that state this as a fact, and they might also realize that the Catholic Church has had it wrong this entire time, and that they might want to take a second and watch one of these channels and throw off the world, like, just throw off the world and believe on Jesus and Jesus alone and get rid of your works. They amount to nothing. They're not going to get you anywhere. You're going to be left behind because of them. That's what gets you left behind. You thinking you've done something, you've contributed something, as opposed to that Holy Spirit's in you. You ain't getting rid of it. It's there. All right. So this is the second timeline. to that one, I wanted to see what it looked like, where 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh day you rest. Creation begins on a Sunday, first day of creation, but it's also the fourth day of time. So as we go forward, this will only work this way, and this timeline will only work um, with Jesus being on the cross on a Wednesday, and you see this is Sunday. You go down, and that's the first day of creation. First day of creation began on Elul 28, September the 11th. That's when creation began. That's why the Twin Towers came down on that day. Satan was um, flying in the face of God, is what he was doing, and he's going to pay eternally for that mistake. For some reason, he is counting on God's grace and thinking that God's grace will overweigh God's just judgment, and he is sadly mistaken. So, this would be the fourth day of time. Time was created um, back here on day 4, on September the 14th, Elul 31. September the 15th is Tishri 1. When I built the first timeline, I'd never thought about doing a timeline like this, where 6 days you work and on the seventh day you rest. When I built it, it locked in everything that I had on the first timeline as being, I did all this math in my head for years as being why it had to be this and why it had to be that. And so I figured out that the first day of creation was on September the 11th, 6 years ago. I knew this. And again, I did all this math, first day of creation, Elul 28, September the 11th. I've known this for a very long time, but I could never, how could I articulate it to you properly except to say that this is true until I built this timeline. And then you see if creation did not begin on September the 11th, on a Sunday, Jesus would not have gone to the cross on a Wednesday. Had to be a Sunday it started in order for the sun comes up, you give it a date. The next day the sun comes up, you give it a date for Jesus to come to the cross on a Wednesday. He had to go to the cross on a Wednesday. It was not a Thursday. It was not a Saturday. It was not a Friday. It couldn't, because if creation began on a Sunday and you do a simple count, you don't even need to put you don't even need to put my dates in there. Put whatever date you want, but you must use the Hebrew count. If you don't, Jesus will, if you do this, the correct way to count, Jesus will have gone to the cross on a Wednesday. Okay, let me keep going here. I had Sister Sandy do a few repairs, and I had to, of course, always add a little something to it. But let me zoom in a little bit here. There is a verse that I found that calls this moment here. Joshua enters Israel in the year 2598, which is 1406 BC. I always want you to remember, and I'm going to prove this math to you. This is easy to prove. We count a 0 year. There is an automatic knee-jerk reaction to say, we're going to go from BC and count that, and then we're going to start with AD and count that, and we're going to separate them. You can't do it. And I'll prove it to you with the Jubilees. The Jubilees prove it abundantly, and what we wind up with as we count Jubilees and the Gregorian way of counting with the 0 year added in there, we're always going to be a year off. I have the same problem with this timeline as I had with the other one of being a day off because of the 364 and 365, which made it easier for me to understand this inherent problem that we have. The concept of AD and BC didn't come out until 525 AD. They call him a Christian monk, but to me, Christian monk means Catholic monk. He was a Catholic monk, and he made a mistake. Or did he? Because I see on his timeline that he does combine these two. 1 BC is 1 AD. As you're going through the 1 BC this way, you're counting back 1 AD this way. It's the same year. It overlaps, which is why we see 13 and a half years here. March 30th, 30 AD, which is Passover. We see Jesus in the temple. He's 12 and a half. He is not 13 and a half. The Bible tells us he's 12 and a half. So we know we have a 1 year problem. So when we say this is 2025, it is not 2025. It is 2024 because of we have not overlapped this year zero. And I can again, time and time again, prove this overlap here just on the Jubilee count. There will be from creation in 4003 BC. We can't change that. We can't move it to try to accommodate the 6 days, 6,000 years. There were periods of time that were not counted. The period of time while God was here dwelling among us for 33 and a half years, the period of time where Noah was on the ark for a year and 10 days, and the period of time where God changed the head of the year in Exodus 12, that adds up to 35 years, 33 and a half, 1 year and a half a year. That's 35 years. That's why we see, um, we see Or did I do? Oh, here it is. That's why we see this 6,035 to the end of the tribulation. We will see that. But when you do a Jubilee count, it's 6,034. Time and time again, I will show you that it is 1 year off. We are actually in the year 2024. Now, if we take 2024, there is a very predominant channel that I like very much from Games to God. He says the rapture should have happened in 2022. He's right. The reason he's right is because it is 2024. The time Noah spent on the ark, a year and 10 days, and the time of Exodus 12, it brings us back to September the 24th in the year 2022. That's when the rapture should have occurred. But Satan would have a railing accusation against the rules that God set up. Man had to spend 6,000 years toiling in the dirt. He would argue, but you were here. I didn't know you were here. If I'd known you were here, I wouldn't have killed you, but it doesn't matter. You were here for 33 and a half years. That's why we have the 33 and a half years added to that. And then you change the head of the year. You can't just randomly change the head of the year and take 6 months away from my time. Remember when Jesus came to the guy that was possessed by Legion, they said, but it's not our time. How did they know? How did they know it wasn't their time? Because they have the correct count. This is for us to try to figure out. This is for kings and queens. This and queens. Why not? And for us to try to figure this out. Right? This is what we do. There's plenty of male and female people, men and women, that are trying to figure this out. And as we go through this, I think God joys in this as we try to figure it out, in spite of the fact that these are things that we can't see. These are things that we don't know. These are things that we dream of and we study out and we try to figure it out. That's the joy of this. That's the joy of going to New York, to Times Square. It's on the way there. You get there, you look at Times Square for 3 minutes, and you start heading home. You just wanted to see Times Square. It was the fun of getting there. And that's what all of us with our piece of the puzzle do on our way there. Nobody's going to get to heaven and say, I was right, everybody else is wrong. That's not true. I've been wrong so many times. I don't know if I'm right now. But it's been quite a journey as I've gone through this over these years, and never thought that I would learn so much about God's timeline. I always, in the beginning, 40 years ago, trusted other people and their work, telling myself, I'm never going to be able to figure this out like that person. That's incredible stuff, until I actually started doing it. And then I realized, wait a second, I got this. I built that timeline 7 years ago. And then I built the other one. And Sister Sandy's been there the entire time, from New Zealand, helping me put this stuff together. And no, we don't have to agree. That's not what the point of this is. Not, is not, well, I agree with you. Nope, I agree with this one. I'm only subscribing. You're making a huge mistake. This is the journey. We're all taking different roads to Times Square, but ultimately we're going to get there to Times Square. That's where we're going. And once we get there, there is no journey back, I guess. We're just staying there. We're coming back during the millennium. So, creation. 123 jubilees later from creation, we will land here. And my guesstimation was March 16th. In Sister Sandy's, it was March 26th, which is fine. That is the Jubilee cycle. It's not giving us a month or a day. It is giving us the Jubilee cycle. It is to 2025. And then from Adam's fall, he was created with age. He was 26 and a half. He was 33 and a half when he was removed from the garden. The Bible tells us that he sinned on October the 31st. The Bible doesn't tell us that. Extra biblical books do, but he did sin around this time. He was mathematically, we can figure this out. He was 33 and a half. And so, I'm going to scoop a little closer here. He was 33 and a half years old. He was 26 and a half at creation. Jesus was in the year 26 and a half, September 24th, 26 is when Jesus was baptized and subsequently went out for 40 days and then started his ministry. He, in fact, started his ministry 5 days before his birthday, September 24th. September 30th, which I don't have on here, but Day of Atonement, minus 5 days, 5 days before his birthday. So as we continue to count forward, the time we had 7 years of good with Adam in the garden. And I see this extra, it's actually, by the time he's kicked out of the garden, it's Tevet 1. It's the 10th month and first day. He's in the garden, a sinner, for 45 days. 45 days after he has sinned, God realizes or says for us to realize that we got to be careful. He can't eat of the tree of life. He could live forever. Kicks him out of the garden just over here. So we have this 47 and 45. What's that? 92 days. We have this from that 123 Jubilees to 2032. In 2032, it will be atonement. A lot of stuff happens on atonement. On atonement, we have a lot of stuff happening because this is when they're going to accept their false Messiah. And this is when they're going to realize that Jesus was actually the correct Messiah, the one that they pierced. So we go on to this date. Now, I couldn't help David the watchman found this Apophis and he did some math, and I was shocked at his math. On April 13th, 2029, Apophis will come through, and he did math. He says, if you count back 1,260 days, you land here. I was like, that's incredible. It lands on Halloween. If you count forward 1,260 days, you land on the Day of Atonement. How perfect is it that on April 13th, that this Apophis is coming in? I decided to go ahead and count another 30 days, and it lands on the day Noah entered the ark. The doors open, Noah goes to the ark right there. And then the other 45 days, which is the 1,335 days, on December the 8th, which is Hanukkah. I think that's when Jesus' millennium begins. 75 days after the end of tribulation, 75 days later, I think the millennium begins. Now, millennium, Jesus is not sharing his millennium with the Antichrist. Jesus is no less going to argue for his time than the Antichrist would argue for his time. So the millennium will last 1,000 years, without a doubt. So that being said, and I'm going to go back to what I said previously, I will almost be dogmatic about this fact in learning all this stuff, that a rapture can only occur, or a gathering of the tribulation saints can only occur in a Jubilee year, which is why I don't believe the tribulation saints will be here during the 7 years, because there's no point during the 7 years, a halfway point during the seven years where there is a Jubilee. There are two Jubilees. This Jubilee will end here on, if we account for Sister Sandy, March 26th. This Jubilee, will begin right here. This is the Jubilee year. This is the rapture. This Jubilee year will last all year long. It will end the Jubilee year on March 16th of 2026. However, The gathering of the saints must occur if we're going to make the statement that the rapture can only occur in the millennium. The rapture or the gathering of the tribulation saints must only occur within that year. I think that it being 8 years as of September the 24th in the year 2025, 8 years from the Revelation 12 sign, is the completion of what God is going to do. I think that all of the saints will be there, and I'll show you that in Revelation, why I think that. And that period of time right there, this is Daniel's 70th week. This is when it will begin the tribulation of 7 years for the Jews. It will last 7 years long right here. It will begin and it will end on the Day of Atonement. Remember, the Revelation 12 sign was not on September the 23rd. It was on September the 24th. If you'll go in and look, the moon was not under her feet. They were attempting to change the date to call it Tishri 1. They were inaccurate. It was the Day of Atonement that took place on September the 24th. Now, again, confirming this timeline. I didn't know that when I built the timeline. As I went forward and started to recognize these events were lining up with this timeline, I began to become more and more convinced. And again, I will not force anybody to say this is correct. And everybody, I don't even like those comments where they're like, I told them that. Don't tell them that I'm right. I don't. Who knows? Maybe they're right. Don't do that. But let's look at it as a possibility to when the rapture might occur. And if it passes, it passes. We go to, I'm just telling you that this is 2025. This is the Jubilee, and it will last all year long. If we make the statement that the Jews get 7 years, then that must begin on the Day of Atonement right here, and it must end on the Day of Atonement in 2032. We must see, in my opinion, the tribulation saints out of here before God diverts his attention back to the Jews for these 7 years. Now, 1029, 21 times 49. Not sure why I had her put that in there, but it's mathematically accurate. Is it mathematic 2025? 29 would be 40, that'd be 54. Yeah, 54. So yeah, that's mathematically accurate. So the millennium will last 1,000 years. Not 1 second will be taken away from the Lord. It will begin on Hanukkah, and I believe it ends on Hanukkah in 2032, or I'm sorry, 3032. What we call 3032 is actually 3031 because of that 0 year count. So I did the math from creation to here. With the 0 year, it'll be 7035. Taking away the 0 year, doing a straight count right here, all the way through 144 Jubilee cycles, you will end up here in 7034. We call it 3032. Now, that at the end of Armageddon, that would say to me that Satan has 22 years mathematically. If the millennium is 1,000 years and it begins here on December 8th of 2032 and ends here on December 8th of 3032, and mathematically the 144 Jubilee cycles, and we make the statement that only in a Jubilee year will God take his people. We see that at the white throne judgment at the end of the 22 years, at the end of Armageddon. We see that the white throne judgment, the books were open. Some people were judged out of a lot of people were judged out of those books, many to everlasting life, many to everlasting condemnation. A Jubilee year. Again, you see now how all of these things are happening in a Jubilee year. The bride goes here, let's say, for sake of argument, March 26th of 2025. The tribulation saint must go here by September the 24th of 2025. The Jew, at the end of the 7 years, will go into the millennium. At the end, it will also be a jubilee by counting from the time Adam sinned to this point right here. And the Jew will go into the millennium for 1,000 years, and we will rule and reign in that millennium for exactly 1,000 years. And then here in 3032, which is 7035 with that 0 year, and 7034 with a straight jubilee count right here. 144 jubilees to 3054, 7,056 years in total, 35 years. It's 7,057 with the 0 year, but 35 years for that time Jesus was here, Noah's Ark, and the 6 months, and these 22 years for Satan to rule for a little season to tempt whom he can tempt at the end of that. Can't imagine. We're going to be here for 1,000 years telling these people this day is coming. Get ready, this day is coming. But guess what? We've been here for 2,000 years telling you, get ready, this day is coming. Get ready, this day is coming. Look at the world. Nobody's listening. They just aren't listening. So get ready for that. All right, let me keep going. I apologize for taking so long on this. Again, the Jubilee counts by 49. At the end of 49 years begins a Jubilee. Same thing happens up here. At the end of 49 years began that Jubilee. It counts by 49. Let me keep going. This is what I showed you mathematically happens when you account with the 0 year. You'll see 6,028. But if you count with a Jubilee, you'll see 6,027. We are technically, because of that 0 year, right now in the year 2024. However, we call it 2025. That's the time, the 35 years I was telling you about, 33 and a half years for Jesus, half year for Exodus 12, because God moved ahead of the year, and 1 year for Noah. That's the 35 years. When you say, well, it had to happen at exactly 6,000 years, so we're going to move this, change that, shorten the time Jesus was here, move the creation up to 39 something, and we're going to do all this jargon math to try to make it exactly 6,000. That's not how it works. Jesus, in fact, was here for 33 and a half years, a half a year for Exodus 12. We can read it in Exodus 12. And we know Noah was on the ark for 1 year and 10 days. That's the 35 years. All right. I have that twice. Oh, because that's 4,003 to 2032. That's the total amount of time. Yeah, I guess I just have it on there twice. Cool. Not sure why. All right. Now, when we do it by, I showed you before, Jubilees, we are a year off. So this is taken into account with the math. It's 7057 at the end, the 35 plus Satan's 22 years, but it's actually 7056. That's Satan's 22 years right there, 7056 minus 6,034 because of the I could have done 7057 and 6035 like I showed you. It's always comes to 22, depends on which timeline you're using. Satan, I believe, will have 22 years. And then I looked it up. 22 it means it's 1111. Everybody's seeing 1111, and I'm wondering if that is not just a warning that the people in the future will look back and say, they kept seeing 1111 all the time. That's the 22 years that Satan will rule. Maybe God is simply telling us that Satan will rule for 22 years. It's a double 11, which symbolizes disorder and chaos. That's exactly what's going to happen. I showed you this before. When you're counting from 5 BC to 5 AD, there are not 10 blocks. Even though 5 and 5 is 10, there are not. You have to share this center year here. And when you do this way, then you will wind up with the correct Jubilee cycle. This guy here, he's called a Christian monk. I think he was a Catholic monk. Aren't monks Catholic? I don't know if there's such a thing as a Christian monk, but this is again is Google, so they're going to call a Catholic a Christian. And this happened around the very concept of BC and AD, Anno Domini, was created in 525 AD. So that's what we see. But he even knew this. He even recognized this math here when he did it. They were to share that 1 year, but nobody does these days. They say, well, BC and AD are a separate year. They're not. They're the same year. I showed you that. All right. I want to show you this real quick. Um, I decided to do this based on Sue Keith's video where she said, put yourself out of it. Read the New Testament as though you weren't a part of it. You're the bride. You technically are not. You technically were saved before the foundations of the world. You technically are already covered. All of these stories don't apply to you. While we're here, uh, still, there will be a day when we go. I think once we get there, we're going to realize we're out of time. We were always there. I don't know how to make sense of that. I don't know how to articulate that, but that's the indicator that we see in the Bible. The indications in the Bible are that we're already there. And when he's speaking to that concept, he is speaking to the bride. So we read in Matthew, everybody's favorite verse, but of the day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. This is speaking to the Jew, and this is true. They do not know. They are not looking. Go out and find me. Not all the Jews now. There are plenty of Jews that are followers of Jesus, and even they are doing some works. So they are Jewish believing tribulation saints. Not a lot of them are the bride where they feel like they don't have to do anything. They're probably, I don't know. I don't want to make a statement that every Jew that became a believer in Jesus is a bride. I don't agree with that. I believe that they are stuck in works every bit as much as they were when they were of the Jewish faith. So we see that. Notice here it says, be ready any hour. Be ready any hour. That means you should always be watching, but you don't know. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you should always be watching. Same thing we see here in Mark, a similar thing. This one takes it one step further. Neither the Son is added in there. That confounds me a little bit until I saw her video and I realized this is still not talking to us. Jesus Christ is God Almighty. Maybe at this point he didn't know, but of course he knows now. He's not sitting in heaven going, "Is it time yet? Is it time yet?" No, that date has been set in stone from creation. That date has never moved. It's never budged. It appears as though some might say, "Where's the promise of his coming?" You said he was coming 5 years ago. I see these comments all the time. Breaks my heart when I see them. But you said, you've been wrong so many times before. It's not about me being right or wrong. It's about us watching and trying to figure this out together, not about pointing fingers of who is wrong. I could point to literally every single watcher who has called a date as being wrong. I could do that, but what a waste of time. We've all been wrong, every single one of us, but we're still here trying to figure it out. We're still putting in the time. Be ready any hour. Mark is written to the tribulation saint, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, and neither the Son. Now I'm going to put forth an argument here that it's not their time that they know because they have a specific count, don't they? Once the rapture occurs, those who were in the world and in their works will stop and say, all right, from this count, we have the exact time. And I've heard many people say this. It's not speaking to that count. It's speaking to this one now, the tribulation. I'm sorry, the rapture of the bride just prior to the tribulation. They don't know. They don't know. And when Jesus was in his earthly body at that moment, he didn't know. But they don't know when the rapture is going to occur. They're not watching for it. I spoke to a Catholic not too long ago, and I said, "Are you ready for the rapture?" "What's that?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? You've got to be kidding me. You don't know what the rapture is. Is that time when Jesus? We don't believe in that. We don't follow that. We don't know when it's. They're not watching, and that's what they're not watching. Had they watched, they would have known, but they didn't watch. They closed their eyes, they shut their blinders, they would not watch. And that's what these verses are speaking to. They're not speaking to their time to go, they're speaking to our time to go. That's why they don't know. Show me a person that's stuck in the church right now, in the Catholic Church, in any church. I don't want to pick on the Catholic Church, all of them, almost all of them. Pastor J.D. Farag, great guy. He's watching, and he has his entire ministry watching.
And they're trying to figure it out as well. And he's come out and said, could this be the day? I don't know, but could it? So, no, it passed. JD Farag was wrong, but he was right because we're supposed to be watching and surmising when it was supposed to happen. But these verses are not speaking to when their time will happen. These verses are speaking to when our time did happen. They did not know, they were not watching. So I went into Luke, and it's worded a little bit differently. This now says, be ready for service. It doesn't say, be ready any hour. It doesn't say that. He's warning them, be ready any hour. This could happen. You're not watching, but be ready any hour. Whoops, let me go this way. For us, it's be ready for service. Why? Because we're already there. I don't know how to articulate that to you, but we're already there. Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, and yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord. That's us. We are chomping at the bit. We're looking at everything. There's 3 snails on the ground. That must mean this. That is called watching. I won't watch 3 snails on the ground and associate it with anything. I don't think anybody has, but I'm using it as a silly excuse because there's literally 3 snails on the ground here. So, but you see what I'm saying? Their piece of the puzzle is different than yours. I will never discount somebody else's piece of the puzzle and how they watch. God only knows that they're watching, and that's what's important. So we see here in Luke, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord. When ye will return from the wedding, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, that ye may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants. Who's he talking to here? It's in Luke. Is he talking to the bride? No. That's why Suki's comment that take yourself out of the situation. Luke is speaking predominantly to us to teach us to watch, but this verse is not speaking to us. It's speaking to the servants. Who are the servants? The servants are the tribulation saints. When is this wedding going to happen? It's going to happen the end of 7 years. They may open unto him immediately. These are the 10 virgins. All 10 fell asleep. None of them are the bride. 5 of them had oil. That's these guys. Whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. What are they going to do the second the rapture occurs? They're going to walk away from their failed churches. They're going to stop making their priests, preachers, multimillionaires, and they are going to begin to watch. They're going to begin to study. They're going to go into all of this grain that's been stored up during that period of time, and they're going to study. A lot of this is for the Jew. They are going to recognize at the end of 3.5 years that this guy's insane. He just called himself God. You know what they do to people that call themselves God? They leave, they go to Petra. This verse is speaking to the tribulation saint or the Jew. I don't know which, but when he comes back, he's probably speaking to both. When he comes back, he's going to find them watching. But this gives us an indicator that the 10 with oil or the 5 with oil are the tribulation saints. All right. I found more verses. I wanted to find as many as I could in in 1 Thessalonians 5, uh, about watching. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves, the bride, know perfectly that the day of the Lord shall come as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child. But and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in the darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. We're not in darkness. We can see it's all set up. It's all happening. They're about to break the bow of Elam. Just like the Bible said, they are about to wipe out Gaza, just like the Bible said. The northern part of Israel is next to be destroyed, just like the Bible said. The all of the stuff that's going on. Look here, look there, look over here, look over here. It's all right here in front of us. It's happening right now. It's going down right now. People will call up this verse in Luke 17. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees, when the kingdom of God should come, he answered and said unto them, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation. neither shall they say, Lo here, lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within in you. This again is a verse. He's speaking to the Pharisees. They're not his favorite people. These people got it all figured out. They're obeying the law. They don't need Jesus. They're going to kill him. And when Jesus speaks to them, he's telling them, it doesn't come, you won't see it. I'm sorry to tell you, but you simply aren't going to see it coming. You're going to miss it. God foreknew this stuff, obviously. Luke 21, we have be watchful and take heed to yourselves, lest any time, this is where when I see these comments, it really breaks my heart to see these comments because this is who, and I don't want to say this is who you are. I want to say be cautious because this is who you sound like you are when you make the comments. So many days have passed. You've been wrong so many times before. I'm fully aware of that. Captain Obvious. I know that. You could say that to every single person on the planet who has been watching and trying to figure out this date that they've been wrong. You are absolutely correct. But be careful when you say that because you are fitting yourself into a box. Take heed to yourselves, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare it shall come on all that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always that ye may be counted worthy to escape all these things, and shall come that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. Be careful. Keep watching. Don't let any of this affect you. I might be wrong. I might be right. Dr. Barry might be right. Aaron might be right. So many people might be right. And so many people might be wrong, but that's not what this is about. So this guy made this comment. I don't know what Little Pharma on Truth Social is. Is Truth Social some kind of a like a YouTube type thing? I'm not sure. I'm not a subscriber, but he says your March 16th date was correct. Little Pharma on Truth Social explains that the Eastern Gate opened when Earth's magnetic north pole crossed from the Western hemisphere into the Eastern. In essence, what this guy is saying here, what he's saying is that, and I thought it was actually genius. Um, right now, Jesus, I don't want to say cannot. He's not going to break his own Levitical law. He's not going to cross a cemetery to get into the closed Eastern Gate. We can make the statement that we can surmise a lot of things. The Eastern Gate's going to fall. Jesus is going to, but he can't. There's a cemetery there. I could even say, well, all of those that are dead there, and I've said this in the past, all those that are dead there must be or it must be the bride, and they're all risen, so the grave's empty. Doesn't negate the fact that it's still a graveyard. You can't stop it from being a graveyard. It's still a graveyard. But this comment here blows my mind. What happens when you switch North and South Pole? East becomes West and West becomes East. They didn't seal up the Western Gate. It's still open. There's no graveyard there. When Jesus crossed into the Western Gate at this point, it will be the Eastern Gate because the pole shift is about to happen. And I was like, you see? Do you see how important it is to subscribe to as many people as you can and listen or listen to read your comments? I read the comments. I don't know if I did. I don't recall if I made. I said, that's interesting. Yeah, he caught my attention. I don't know. Look, it's thousands. I'm a single, not a single guy. I'm a married man, but I'm a one man operation here, and I'm trying the best I can to respond and give you a heart. At least you know I read it. And for you, burnout. I don't know. That's a cool name. Better to burn out. Seven. I don't know what that means, but at any rate, I'm 60, so. Uh, but at any rate, this was an incredible concept, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we're gonna go back into this real quick. Sorry the video is going on so long. Hopefully, it's been entertaining enough for you to continue to watch, or at least listen to me in double speed. Some of you, if you're like me, I listen at work, and I don't care if the video is 4 hours long. I listen at work, so keep on talking. Doesn't bother me. When the Jubilee is 3104. It is of no other number. it's 3104. So we know when we're speaking about this in Numbers 36:4 that we're speaking about the Jubilee, not the happy time with a different number on it. The Jubilee, just like Chodesh has a number, Yarich has a number, Saline has a number. Neither of them, well, Saline and Yarich are interchangeable, but Chodesh is not interchangeable with Yarich. It's not the same. Otherwise, they would have interchanged the the meaning here. So when the Jubilee, H 3104, of the children of Israel shall be, then shall their inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe. So this is where they cross over. This is where Joshua crosses over into the promised land. He crosses over on a Jubilee, which tells me that while you begin your Jubilee count here, that's fine. This is your first Shemitah year beginning, and you will count 49 years. And at the end of 49 years will be your Jubilee, and as well as the first year count of the next Shemitah cycle, which is why Jubilees are 49 years apart, not 50. And so this tells me, just by reading this, that they were counting the Jubilees before the Jubilees were implemented, meaning you can count back to creation, which we did. And we discovered that it all works, it all fits. If I would have counted back and it would have landed in the middle of a Jubilee to creation, I would have been like, this doesn't fit. I'm wrong for counting back, or I have the wrong year of creation. But when I count back from the crossing over in 1406, and I go back to creation and I land perfectly on a Jubilee year, and 7 years later, when Adam sinned, and I count forward 123 Jubilee cycles, and it lands at the end of the tribulation, it all matches and it all fits. It's perfect in every way. So we know now a Jubilee is 3104. Where into they, and this was a very interesting passage because I wanted to know if there was a way, like this guy said, to count the Jubilee uh, back from where Joshua enters the land. And in fact, it's here. So of the whereabout unto received, so shall their inheritance be taken away. The Jews will lose their inheritance from the inheritance. There's a bee flying around. From the inheritance out here in the secret broadcast cave. Sorry, I had to throw that in. From the inheritance of the tribe of our father. So they're going to take the inheritance. Now, they're not, the Jews aren't losing anything because they're the ones going to the millenniums. They're the ones that are going to propagate the entire future of the human race. They're the ones that are chosen by God to do that in the millennium. But the inheritance of Joshua entering the promised land was removed from them and given to the bride and to the tribulation saints as well. So when we read this, thou shalt cause the trumpet of the Jubilee. This is the word happy time. This is not 3401 or 3104. This is 8643. They're not related. This word is not related to this word. It's a separate word. So then thou shalt cause the trumpet of the happy time to sound on earth in the 10th day of the 7th month. And this is where people run confused, saying, well, this is the beginning of the Jubilee, then, the 10th day of the 7th month. No, it's not. That word is not the Jubilee of this word, Jubilee 3104. That is a different word. So this is not when the Jubilee begins. It begins here in the 50th year. Ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants. Therefore, it shall be a Jubilee, the 50th year, which, by the way, is 49 years from when the count began, or from the previous Jubilee, because it overlays, just like I showed you with 0 year, it overlays the 49th year unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession. So, while the 7th month and 10th day, and then he makes the argument. There's a comment that I got that said, if this moved 10 days, why doesn't it move 10 days forward in the Jubilee year as well? Meaning that March 26th might very well be the last Sabbath. It might very well be the first day of the Jubilee year and the triumphant entry, because we kind of get that from when Joshua entered the triumphant entry. It is the Jubilee, 3104. All right, let me go forward here. Here is the comment that caught my attention. Boy Boyd Scarborough. Sorry. Repo Man 64, according to Ezekiel 41, 40, verse 1, doesn't Rosh Hashanah, the first of the year, move to the 10th day of the month on a Jubilee year? If so, can you and if so, both you and Sandy are right. I never considered that it might move. So I go look up Ezekiel 41 and see what it says. And it does kind of say that. What I find that jumps out at me that immediately is in the 5 and 20th year, 2025. It jumps right out at you. Of our captivity in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month. You could kind of say that the beginning of the year is the 10th day of the beginning of the year of March, which would be March 26th or Nissan 10. You might be reading a little bit too much into it. It could just be the 10th day, which is also a man with a measuring right is also could be just that it did begin on the 16th, but that we go home on the 26th. I don't know. It kind of is beginning of the year in the 10th day. I mean, is this the 10th day of the beginning of the year, or is this the Jubilee begins on the 10th day? I don't know. It might be a little stretch to think that, but it could be true. So how I go back into this 49th year and 50th year, explaining that. So based on that guy's uh, comment, September the 24th is the Day of Atonement. That's the day the Revelation 12 signed the anniversary of its 7 years. Exactly. Now, remember, there's two segments of 182 days for a total of 364 days. So you have a segment of 182. The next day, 183rd day, is the beginning of the next 6 month segment. So September the 24th, 2024, plus 183 days is the triumphant entry. This is from the Revelation 12 sign, the 7th year anniversary, to the triumphant entry. So again, we have a little bit more confirmation that might in fact be the beginning of the Jubilee. I'm not ready to hang my hat on that, but it kind of points towards that mathematically. I am not trying to take your date, Sister Sandy. It is the triumphant entry. I just think, or I am wondering if in a Jubilee year, if just because it slides in the 49th year, the seventh day and 10th month, does it also slide over in March? Can we make an argument for that? I don't know. Perhaps. All right. We have clearly read in the sixth seal that a great multitude that no man can count will appear in heaven. It's the sixth seal. It is not the seventh trumpets. It's not the seven bowls. These do not overlap. There are six seals. And in the seventh seal, it opens up to seven trumpets. And then it goes into seven bowls. I just think that the six seals are opened up within those 6 months in order for God to be able to take the tribulation saints while still in a Jubilee year, just on the Day of Atonement 6 months later. That's my argument, and I'm sticking to it until I can't. um, as you know, I've made many videos to the tribulation saints, and this would be another video um, that you might now see that you might not have. I think God's diverting his attention for 7 years back to the Jew. And when the numbers came up showing this extra 6 months, I didn't know what to do with it until it dawned on me. The six seals are going to be opened up in 6 months. And in the sixth month, or the sixth seal, the great multitude is going to appear in heaven. It is so great that no man can count. How many are there? It dawns on me. God told us, kind of. We still can't know. But these are the workers of their salvation. These are those who work for their salvation. And I've heard many people, I've had many comments going, well, they do finally come to realize during the tribulation that they couldn't work for their salvation, but they kneel down
and they tore off the world and they accepted Jesus on his terms. What about those who died previous to that ability during the tribulation? I was confounded by that. But until I realized the deed was already done. The rich man that came to Jesus, the deed was done. The rich man walked away. It bothered Jesus. But guess what? That man's still going to go to heaven. Why? Because he believes. He still believes. He's added all of his works to it, but he still believes. The deed was done. The dirty deed was done. He counted on his works. His works amounted to what? Nothing. It's going to be burned up. Where? During the tribulation or in death. In death. Remember, in death, they will realize. How many are there tribulation saints? It's right here. A fourth of the earth to kill with a sword, with hunger and with death and with beasts on the earth. We don't know how many who have died in the last 2,000 years that have been in the church. So it's a number we can't count. We don't know. But at least here we know it's 2 billion people that will appear in the after the fourth seal. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard a voice from the fourth beast saying, "Come and see." He's like, "Hey, come on over here, look at this fourth seal." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger. Satan does one thing very efficiently. He gets rid of the Christians. He gets rid of anybody who believes on Christ, and he kills them. He killed Jesus, and the only people going to heaven alive are the bride. But there's many of the bride who've counted only on the blood of Christ in the last 2,000 years that will be raised prior to us. That's the prerequisite. Trusting in the blood and the blood alone. Once saved, always saved. That's the prerequisite. Those of us who are alive and remain, we're a byproduct. We're still alive. We weren't killed. We didn't die. But everyone else that goes to heaven will die. All of them. And it seems to me, because this is the fourth seal, that they appear in heaven. And what happens when they get there? The dead in Christ are already there. They're waiting. These people will die here during the tribulation. They're going to be there. There's a lot more people there than we realize. Why do the fifth seal martyrs begin to complain? Hey, what's going on? We see all these people here. What happened to us? This martyrs are related to, but not a part of, the tribulation saints, because we see the martyrs. And I had this idea, and I talked to Kevin a little bit about it. He's not seeing it. And I would ask anybody out there who's ever worked on the 144,000, do you see, because that's what I'm seeing, two groups of 144,000, 144,000 Gentiles and 144,000 virgin Jewish males that were killed for the word of God when Jesus came by King Herod. Is it possible that is it possible there are two groups? Because I'm seeing two sets of martyrs. I'm sorry, two sets of 144,000. One set of 144,000, as we see in John, have a purple robe. And Mark, we see, have a purple robe. They're two separate groups, but they both have a purple robe, telling me that they are from the same time span. In other words, the tribulation saints will begin to show up in heaven almost immediately, and they will continue to show up throughout those 6 months. And there will be 144,000 Gentiles warning, as well as 144,000 virgin Jewish males. Why do I say that? Because the 144,000 have a purple robe. They have the same color as we see in Mark, the tribulation saint. They both arrive on the scene at the same time, but they are not the same people. They were chosen by God to stay here and warn. Maybe they're the ones that caused the Gentile to convert, and the 144,000 virgin Jewish males are the ones that work with the Jews
to finally recognize who they put in charge, and they go to Petra. Look at the color of the robes. This is what caught me. White robes were given to these are the martyrs. These are not these guys. These guys here are martyrs. They were killed during the tribulation. They have white robes, but they don't have purple robes. Do these guys, I don't know. I'm trying to work this out. I'm seeing two groups of 144K. I'm seeing this group of martyrs having white robes. I know they're not the bride. I know they're not the tribulation saints. They seem to be a separate group. And I don't think that this group of people died previously. I think that they died during the tribulation. I don't know. I don't know 100%. So maybe somebody can help me with uh, that idea. It's just something I'm working on. I'm going to keep studying that. And then we see here, this group of people is not part of the tribulation saint. Oh, wait, sixth trumpet. They are also, no, they're not. The sixth trumpet. These people here are a part of the Jew because by the sixth trumpet, a third part of men were killed. Remember, you have to die to get into heaven. Maybe these people accepted Christ. Remember, there are 8 billion people on the planet. 1/4 is going to die. That's 2 billion people. It's leaving 6 billion people. Here, 1/3 will die. 1/3 of 6 billion is again 2 billion people for an overall of 50% of humanity dying during this period of time, up to the sixth trumpet. So, 4 billion people dead, 4 billion people still alive here on Earth. Keep that in mind as we go forward studying about the possibility of two groups of 144,000. Again, don't give me bad comments. I don't know. It's something that I see and I was curious about. I'll say this until I'm blue in the face. This verse says, after 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up and we shall live in his sight. If you say that the cross was on April the 8th, in order for this verse to fit, the rapture will only occur after April the 8th. It has to occur in the third day. It has to occur in the third day, meaning it could be a year or two after this. It has to occur in the third day. Could, I guess, occur on April the 8th? That would be on the third day. The day after April the 8th would be in the third day. You see what I'm saying? Now, this third day, in my opinion, happened already in uh, what is it? It would be 2,000 years after Jesus went to the cross. He went to the cross. I had to concede to that fact because of the 0 year. The cross was, in fact, on March 30th in 31 AD. So 2,000 years later would be 2031 minus 7 years would be 2024. You see, we passed the time. We are now in 2024. We passed it. Like I said before, it is 2024. But we passed the time, which makes this verse eligible for a rapture. All right. This is her, Sue Keith. Did an amazing study. I just took a screenshot. I don't know much about her. I don't know when I found her. Subscribed to her. Her video popped up. I was at work and I decided to listen to it. But this video right here, if you're deep into the Bible, will shake you at your core. Like I said, I don't think I'm not calling Sue Keith out. She's an amazing Bible study. She did an amazing Bible study here. She just thinks that the tribulation for the saints is going to go on for 3.5 years. I don't. I think that the 144,000 virgin Jewish males are going to be here for 3.5 years, and this other 144,000 somehow, maybe it's just 144,000 of the tribulation saints that come to recognize and start warning everybody else. I don't know. I don't know who they are, but I'm seeing it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can correct me.
but I don't see the tribulation saints being here longer than 6 months. I don't see them being here for 3.5 years. If God has to divert his attention back to Israel for 7 years, that has nothing to do with those that go to heaven. Not only does the bride go to heaven, but so does the tribulation saint. They will be there with us, and they're a great multitude that no man can count. And we see in Seal 4 that a quarter of the planet is killed, and I'm just curious if this is not the tribulation saint that it's referencing right there. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Go subscribe to her channel, Sue Keith, and please watch this video if you're into the Bible at all. This one right here will blow your mind. Um, this piece of the puzzle that she carries is amazing. And she has made the statement that the 10 virgins, none of them are the bride. I've been saying that for years. And this is one of the first people I've heard make that statement. No, none of the 10 virgins are the bride. I don't, the five with oil are the tribulation saints. They simply cannot be because they all fell asleep. The bridegroom came knocking. The bridegroom already had his bride. The bride disappears just prior to all these horrific things. We see terrible things happening, but have you noticed? Has anybody ever actually noticed that that button never gets pushed? The threat is there. We're going to do it. We're going to blow you. This is going to be so bad for you. Blah, 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 but they never actually do anything. But right now, as I watch Bubba News and Chris over Global Rapture Watchers and watch them, see all of these great, wonderful news channels that are just watching all this stuff. As I watch them all, Mark Allison 88, I always forget him. Love his channel. Fantastic guy. Praise and worship. Love his channel. But all of this stuff is like right on the edge right now. That's all it's going to take. It's kindling. It just needs a spark and poof, it goes up and the rapture occurs, right? It's all right there, but it can't occur as long as we're here. They, Trump must be going, why didn't they push the button? They just slapped the guy in the face. He didn't push the button. What's going on? And then they're like, you know, they just bombed one of our ships. Why didn't we just go in there and just pummel them? Why didn't we just go in there and just annihilate them instantly? Something keeps holding them back. Something keeps stopping this from going down. And it's the date of the rapture is what's stopping it. It's God that's stopping it. It's the Holy Spirit that's stopping it. And no, the Holy Spirit does not leave with us. We leave with our Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit stays here. It stays here and waits for the tribulation saint. They're every bit as important as you think you are as a bride. They're super important. They are going to the Holy Spirit stays here because we see it in Revelation after the rapture occurs, before any seals are opened, that this restraining happens in seal 6, which means to me that the restrainer is still here. He's restraining the four winds. He's still here. The bulk of the horrific things that happen will happen to that period of time, but it's still being restrained. The restrainer's still here, still going down. The tribulation saint is super important. Don't discount them. They are your family, your friends, your mothers, your fathers, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers, sisters. They're your best friends. They are right there with you. They're hearing you and they think you're nuts. Doesn't make you special at all. It makes Jesus special. And Jesus is still going to bring them. He has made a promise. Those who believe on him, they believe on him. They just are just like the rich man came to Jesus and Jesus was like, harder for a can. I've heard that there's a better translation than that, but it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. A rich man, meaning not that he has money. Don't look at rich people and go, you're not going to heaven, you're rich. That's ridiculous. It's meaning that those who think they have everything that they need, they don't need God. They have everything that they need. And so um, that's all. That's all. I guess I got a text. So that's all that we need to look at. And I just stress. I've stressed for years, and people like you must be a tribulation saint because you're so worried about them. I am so worried about them because I know so many of them, and I care so deeply for them, and I know that they're going to heaven because they have a faith with works, and they are not going in this rapture, but they will go to heaven. That rich man is Jesus was upset because he wouldn't throw everything away and follow him. He would not throw away his works. He had works. I did it. When Jesus says, go sell everything, he wasn't talking about his money. The guy misunderstood. We misunderstood. He was talking about his works. I've done this since my childhood. I am this and I've done this. And Jesus said, go and sell it all. Get rid of it all and just follow me. And that's what he meant by it. Just follow him. You don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. That's all you need. And if I could convince a tribulation saint who's counting on all their good works and all their good glory, but I can promise you this, I can tell you this, that when that rich man walked away from Jesus, not being able to get rid of his good works and follow Jesus and sell it, first of all, that is a truism. That is a fact that will happen to these people. They won't do it. They will not believe any of this stuff. And the second thing is that while they count on their works, Jesus has still saved them, not in the type of salvation that you're understanding as far as no saved person will be left behind. No, that rich man, Jesus had more honor and more respect for him than he did for the atheist or the Satan worshiper. He had more respect for him and will save him. And he will learn when he strips him clean of everything he has, everything, his food, his money, his everything. What will that Christian do at that point? He will drop to his knees and accept Christ on Christ's terms and Christ's terms alone. So that's the point I want to stress and get across. All right, Repo Man 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. I have now promoted Sue Keith, so Bree over at Looking Up will have to make a video of her. She's very articulate and she's very intelligent. So enjoy, Bree. Make a video of Sue Keith. All right. I like doing it, people. Sorry. All right. Repo Man 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to know anybody. You don't need to know anybody. You don't need to tell anybody and accept the Lord into your heart. Listen, if we're raptured tomorrow, this would be the time to do it. If you did it and accepted Christ on his terms alone, took that cup and drank from it, and you're disappointed tomorrow, sorry for you, but that's how it works. We're going to keep calling out these high watch days. I'm not going to make a promise it's definitely going to happen, but that saved you, and that's all you need. You don't need a date. You need salvation. All of this is for you to realize how close it is, and all of this is to make you go to your knees. And once you have, I don't care about your feelings. I don't care how oh, it didn't happen, so now I'm not saved. No, you're saved. You can't get that stuff off you. Once you drink of that cup, it's stuck. It is stuck. You can't get rid of it. So so while the comments I see about it's gonna hurt their feelings, I don't care. I don't care the slightest about their feelings. I care that they went to their knees. That's what God sent me here to do. Plant that seed, and if Jesus brings you to your knees, John 6:44, it's on the wall behind me. Nobody comes to the Father unless the Father draw him. And if he's using me to draw you to go to your knees, then he gets all the glory. I don't get any of it. None of it is mine. And if the date passes, my bad. We'll go on to the next one and keep looking, keep trying to figure it out. I will never apologize for trying to give you a high watch day. I will never tell you it's God told me so and it's definitely going to happen. And hold your breath because it's going to come in 3 minutes. Just hold your breath. I'm not doing that. That never comes out of my mouth ever. But, you know, March 26th could be it. We'll see. We'll chat with you all again later. Enjoy this 1,000,000-hour video that I made. Sorry about that. But I had to get all that out. Let me see if I can find out what happened with no, he never texted me back. He emailed me back. Jason Bloodchurch. He has a good channel too. You should go subscribe to it as well. All right, I'm gonna go now. I don't know where the end button is. I'm out of here. Come on, Rapture, happen before I hit the end button. Oh, it's not going to happen before I hit the end button. And I just said it might happen before I hit the end button, so I was wrong. Okay, bye.